Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Sarah Morican. I'm the Associate Director in the Office of Graduate Fellowships and Awards Administration here in the Graduate School. And I wanted to take a moment to thank you for joining us for this session this afternoon on financial aid for graduate students. And I'd also like to welcome our students that are joining online as well. We will have an opportunity at the end for a question and answer session. And if you are joining online, please use either the chat or the Q&A feature to ask your question, and we'll get that answered for you. Following the presentation, for those of you joining here in person, we will be offering a reception at 3 o'clock here in the Kern lobby. So we hope that you will take a moment and join us, grab a snack, mingle with other graduate students, and also some of the graduate school team members that are here today. Brooke Snyder is the director in our office. She's here in the front of the room, and Kim Siggins is our administrative assistant. She's in the back of the room today. That makes up our office. And I'm going to turn the floor over now to Jamie Kosh, who is our presenter this afternoon. He is a senior manager in the Office of Student Aid and works specifically with graduate students. So I know he's got a lot of great resources for you and information. So thank you, Jamie. Thanks for being here.
Much for inviting me, and happy to be here today. Thank you all for attending, and those online, thank you also for attending. We're going to go over basically the aid for graduate students. We'll talk a little bit about international students if you're also here looking for aid at Penn State, and then we'll talk about the process for aid in general, the federal loans that are available. One thing I do want to point out, as a graduate student, you don't have the aid options that you did as an undergraduate. Basically, you're going to be left with, on the federal side, are going to be federal loans, either direct loans, graduate plus loans, or a private alternative loan. So that's really what we're coming from that side of the house. So we'll go ahead over that and take a look. Okay, so for the agenda, basically what we're going to go over today is how to apply for international students, as well as U.S. citizens that are here that would like to be considered for federal financial aid. The one thing I want to point out there right now, as we're in the presentation, is in the Office of Student Aid where I work, we don't control the fellowships, assistantships, scholarships. That all comes from the graduate school. So, we want to talk to the graduate school about those things. Any questions we can answer at the end for you, but that's where any of those things would be determined. So we don't do that in the Office of Student Aid. If you would be awarded those, they would send it over to us. We would put it on your aid package that you would see on LionPath. After you're admitted to the program, you would have access then to your financial aid package that we would put on there when we have your FAFSA and all those things that go through. So we want to be clear on that. What I'm talking about today is going to be the federal aid and private alternative loans. So the agenda for today is how to apply if you're an international student, if you're a U.S. citizen applying, how to do that through the free application for federal student aid. The next thing, what is available for graduate students? So we will talk about any of the loans that are available, and as I mentioned, scholarships. I'll talk about outside scholarships as well. So it's something you don't want to forget about as a graduate student. It's very important to continue to look for outside funding to basically finance your education. It's great to do that. Next on the list are going to be over award holds, some of the issues you may run into as a graduate student, some kind of tips and tricks you want to avoid as a graduate student that'll help as you're going through your program and avoiding any issues with federal aid or any loans that we process for you. Loan repayment and loan forgiveness options, there are some out there now. We want to give you that information. An office that I will promote today is financial literacy. So we'll talk about what they offer. They are a separate office on campus. They're excellent and can help you with budgeting, any questions you have about repayment, career options, things like that. So they kind of take care of a lot of things for us. We'll go over some miscellaneous, and then at the end we'll have some questions. So I want to make sure that we have time for that today. Okay? So as an international student, how you want to apply for aid is you want to check your eligibility. So if you're an eligible non-citizen, if you want to see what your status would be, if you're a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, you can file for aid at studentaid.gov. If you want to check your status as well, if you're not sure about that, what your visa status is and things like that, there's two places to go. The first one is going to be studentaid.gov. You can take a look on there because the policies and procedures for being eligible eligible for federal student aid would be listed on there. The next place that you want to go is going to be global.psu.edu, an excellent site for Penn State students that are international. Not only for undergraduates, but for graduate students. Gives you good information about loan options that are on there, maybe some other programs from your country, from your home country that you may qualify for, and is just a great resource to have as far as visa applications, the whole process to be a student here at Penn State. So we absolutely want to take a look at both of those options for you. We have lots of resources here at Penn State. That's the great thing. We're a big place. Penn State is a huge place, but we want to make sure that you're aware of all the resources and take advantage of those resources while you're a student at Penn State. So it's important to do that. The other thing most that we're talking about for international students would be some kind of funding outside of the university, be that a private alternative loan or a loan from your home country could be an option. On our website, we have lists for some private alternative loans that you can go out and apply for at global.psu.edu. They would require, most of those loans are going to require a U.S. cosigner. There are some loans out there for international students that would require this. Again, those are mostly going to be from the home country that you're studying from. So take advantage of that. Look for all the options. There are a lot of private alternative loan options out there, but it is one way to fund your education. You want to take advantage of that. The other thing that we do offer here at Penn State is a payment plan. So if you're having any issues with that or paying the bill, we do give you the option of paying a 4-payment installment plan over the fall and spring semester, and then it's a 3 installment plan over the summer if you were attending. So when you get your bill, the time frame that it follows is in July-ish, the end of July or so, the bill would come out for the fall semester. Typically that first payment is going to be due August 22nd, and then the 22nd of each month following. If you do sign up for the payment plan, it would be about $45 is what they charge for the payment plan, and you can split it into 4 equal payments over the course of the semester. So I know in some cases you could pay partially through that or partially through private alternative loans or what have you. So there are different ways that we can manage that. If you also go to the bursar.psu.edu site, you can use Flywire for payments and things like that. So there are a lot of different payment options available on the Bursar website for you. So just be clear about that for international students. For students that are citizens or eligible non-citizens, we do recommend you file the free application for federal student aid. Most of you have probably done that form as an undergraduate. If not, you can go to the website and complete one. We'd like you to complete the one now for the 2024-25 year. That's the one that's available now. If you were thinking about taking any summer classes this summer, you would actually complete the 23-24 FAFSA. Penn State is called a trailer school in that we're a trailing semester. So if you attended fall, spring, summer is part of that prior academic year. So if you are looking at taking any classes this summer, you're in an eligible program, taking at least 5 credits to be considered at least half-time in the program, you may qualify for federal student aid. So you would fill out the 23-24 FAFSA, and then I would recommend you fill out the 24-25 FAFSA now. The difference being if you filed a FAFSA last year, it's the new FAFSA this year. It's called the Better FAFSA, Better Future simplification process. I'm sure many of you have seen on the news lately about this, that it has been a struggle, to say the least. They are trying to make it much easier for people to file the FAFSA form. And it is easy if you did the parts, like if you did your taxes and everything's in there for you, but you can run into some trouble. So the first thing that you'll want to do is go out, if you haven't filed the FAFSA or you want to check, and maybe you did before, is go on to studentaid.gov and make sure that you have your FSA ID ready. As a graduate student, you wouldn't need your parent information. As long as you're a degree-seeking student in a graduate program, you wouldn't this time need any parent information like you would have as an undergraduate student. So it should be much easier for you to complete the form. So you'll want to go there first, studentaid.gov, and make sure that your FSA ID is up to date. The next thing that you want to do is complete the FAFSA at studentaid.gov. Again, that's the 24-25 year of completing that. Once you complete the FAFSA form, we'll receive it here at Penn State, and then we would process it once we see that you're enrolled in your graduate program. We would go ahead and make sure that you're taking the appropriate number of credits. That's at least 5 or more credits to be qualified for the federal loans. that you would be eligible for. If you do need additional funding, we can talk about that on the next few slides. There are other options available for you. So just remember, when you are filing the FAFSA for 24-25, you're using 2022 tax information. It's called prior year. So even though we're back there, when you're going into this academic year, it would be 22 for the 24-25 academic year. If you had changes of income or anything like that, we could talk about it, but really in your program, the only loans that you would be eligible for are the unsubsidized federal direct loans, and we'll talk about how that works on the next slide. Okay, some of the loans that we're going to talk about, as I mentioned, the unsubsidized direct federal loan. Then we'll talk about the Graduate Plus loan if you would need additional funding, or private alternative loans for graduate students. So there are a couple different funding options there, and I'll tell you what those differences are. So the one that you would complete, just by completing the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA form, you would automatically be considered for the unsubsidized federal direct loan. So as soon as we would get your FAFSA, get your enrollment information, we would package you with the direct loan. Direct loan eligibility for a graduate student taking at least 5 credits per semester is $20,500. That's $20,500 split half between fall and half between spring. Okay, so $10,250 per semester is what you would be eligible for. If you do need additional funding, we could talk about that on the next slide. But just to give you an idea of what you're looking at, the interest rate on this for 24-25 is 8.08%. But I do want to mention that there is an origination fee on these loans. Any of the federal loans have something called an origination fee. This is a loan that the Department of Education uses to process it. So you're actually paying the Department of Education, their loan servicer, some of your loan money before the loan comes into Penn State. So even though you're eligible for $10,250 per semester, you're going to get that minus the origination fee. So 1% off of that is going to be taken before it comes to Penn State. That fee's not to Penn State, that's to the Department of Education. We get the majority of the loan will come here, minus that origination fee will come into Penn State, into your account here at Penn State. It doesn't go to you, it comes into the university first so that we can certify that you're eligible for the loans, that you're taking at least 5 credits, you have cost of attendance is okay, everything is okay for you to be eligible for the loan before it disperses towards your bill on the account at Penn State. If you do decide you need additional funding, maybe for housing and living expenses and computer and all those other things, the next option that we would recommend would be the Graduate Plus loan. This, again, is going to be a federal loan. You do have to have a free application for federal student aid on file, the FAFSA on file, because it is a federal loan before we would be able to process this for you. So, again, to apply for this loan, after your FAFSA's in and we get your information from your FAFSA, then you can go back to studentaid.gov and you can apply for the Graduate Plus loan at that website. I would apply for the full academic year. So whatever it would be, whatever your bill is for the fall is typically what it's going to be for the spring. And these are some things we'll talk about later on. So you would double the amount that you would need for your bill. You'll get your bill, like I said, sometime later in July, and you would still have time to process that loan once that billing statement comes out. So you would double that amount and apply for the loan for the full academic year. What happens then is the loan servicer will send that money to Penn State if you're approved, half for fall, and then they would send the other disbursement in January for the spring semester. So you don't have to apply multiple times for the loan. That's why we recommend you do it at one time. This is a loan, this does a credit check. This loan, the Graduate Plus loan, is not guaranteed like the unsubsidized direct loan. So there is an application process for this. It's kind of a lighter process for the Graduate Plus loan. They don't look so much at debt to income ratios or things like that. It is a little bit lighter, and with that, that's why the interest rate is going to be a little bit higher on that. So it's a little bit easier loan to get versus a loan in a bank. So you're looking at this year, the fixed interest rate on that loan is 9.08% with a 4.228% origination fee. So that is steep. You have to be, make sure that you look at your options, and we'll talk about these options on the next slide. The Graduate Plus does offer some back-end benefits for you. In both these loans, the unsubsidized loan that I talked about and the Graduate Plus loan are called fixed variable. What that means is it's fixed for this academic year, and then next year it's going to change. Even though you took out this loan for this year, it's going to be fixed for the life of the loan in that amount, in that interest rate that you're looking at. But next year, the Department of Education could change that loan. You would apply for a new loan next year. It might be at a different interest rate. So just kind of giving you that idea of what that means, the fixed variable loan. At the end, after you graduate, then you have the option to do some consolidation. There are a number of different options that you'll have once you graduate to repay that debt. Okay, the other loan that we'll talk about is going to be the private alternative loans. So what you would do is go on to Google or whatever search engine that you're using and type in graduate student loan or graduate private loan for education, and you would see a whole bunch of lenders come up there for you. So what you want to do is do your homework, go through that and take a look at what the interest rates are, because typically you can get a much better interest rate through the private alternative loan than you can for the Graduate Plus loan, even though it's a federal loan. Just be careful, because there are benefits to both. So with the Graduate Plus loan, with the unsubsidized federal loan that we talked about before, remember, there are some repayment benefits to that, and we'll talk about that at the end. Where the private alternative loans, there aren't going to be loan forgiveness that has been talked about on the news and things like that for federal loans. So you have to really weigh your options. So you might get a much better interest rate on the private alternative loan, but say that you're thinking about working in the public sector, working for a nonprofit, doing something like that, AmeriCorps or something afterwards, well, they would repay your loans for you, your federal loans for you. They won't repay the private alternative loans for you. So you would have to be careful when you're making that decision. If you have any questions about that, you can certainly contact me. You can contact the department. We can help you with any of those decisions that you're having. So there's plus and minuses of both of those. Okay. And there's two options when you're looking at private alternative loans as well. There's a fixed rate and there's a variable rate option. So your fixed rate option is going to be more long term. If you're staying in school longer, maybe you're looking at other graduate programs, or you're going to stay in more than 2 years, you may want to take the fixed option, because it's going to be a little bit higher, but you're locking in that rate of the loan for the life of the loan. Variable rates do fluctuate every year. That's going to change. So as you're going through that APR, it may change next year. It may be higher or may be lower than what it was when you originally took it out. So it's really that risk and reward that you're looking at, especially in your graduate program. On the short term, you may want to look at the variable rate loans. You can certainly save some money on that. Although in our economy, we're seeing the interest rates rising. So it's really something to be aware of if you're spending 2 years in the program and getting out and getting a job quickly, or have something lined up, maybe a great option for you with the variable. If you're looking long term at going back to school, even after your graduate program or something like that, you may want to take that fixed rate option. Okay. Okay, scholarship searches. Again, we always recommend that you keep looking for any kind of scholarships, any kind of free money to fund your education. Even though you're a graduate student, there are still scholarships out there. So a couple things to look at depending on what program you're going into. Make sure that you look at any accrediting institutions for your program, anything that you're kind of specializing in, if there are any programs or places you're looking for employment, because they could offer scholarships for you. I would recommend going to studentaid.psu.edu. Under our types of aid and under scholarships, we do have a list of different search engines for students, for graduate students. So certainly take advantage of that. Don't stop applying for any scholarships. You want to make sure that you reach out to any accrediting, licensing agencies, anything that you've done, any job shadowing, if you've done any of those things, anybody in your community, anything that you can, any free money that's available, you want to take advantage of that. So it's certainly worth doing. Twitter and Facebook for the Office of Student Aid, also for scholarships for graduate students. Take a look at those websites. And again, as I mentioned, professional associations. So it's really important to continue to look for those scholarships. I know you don't really think about it, and you may not have thought about it since you were an undergraduate, but it's very important to continue to look for that, any of those opportunities that are out there. Okay. As we go into federal aid and into financial aid for you, there's some things that we want to talk about. So basically, what we do as a student at Penn State, we build a budget for you. It's called the cost of attendance. So at Penn State, we have kind of two ways of billing you, two things that we have to look at. We have your billable cost. Those are things that you're going to see on your statement when you're at Penn State, when you're enrolled in classes. So you're going to see on there tuition and fees, and if you're staying on campus, room and board will be listed on there as well. So anything that you're going to get a bill from the university for would be under the billable cost. But at Penn State, we also, in all schools, we have to list other things on there. What does it cost for you to be a student at Penn State for one academic year, fall and spring? Everything else that goes into that, transportation, any kind of books and supplies, a computer, toiletries. I mean, everything that you can basically think of to be a student for a year at Penn State, we try to build into your budget. And really, what is that cost of attendance? That cost of attendance is basically how much you can borrow up to through the loan programs or receive scholarships or fellowships or any of those things up into a certain amount. And we know everybody doesn't fit neatly into those categories. Some of you may need a lot less money. Some of you may just need money for tuition. Some of you may need a lot more money because maybe you have dependents, or maybe you have specialty care, or you need something different. So we have something called an increased cost of attendance. So if you do fall into those situations, once you get your financial aid package from Penn State, if you do need additional funding above that cost of attendance, you can call our office, you can contact me, and we can work through that with you. We know that's a sensitive area, and we want to do that on a case-by-case basis. But remember, we're here to help you. We'll walk you through that process and make sure that you understand what's going on and see what we can do to help you. What happens with an over award is when a student receives funding, be it loans, scholarships, fellowships, that's over that cost of attendance. Now, what would happen? How would that happen? A student's going full-time in the fall, and we package them with the full amount of loans. You apply for a Graduate Plus loan, and we package you up to that full cost of attendance. Then in the spring, you decide, I'm only going to go part-time. Instead of going 12 or so credits, I'm only going to take the minimum of 5 credits. Well, we know with you going through that and the cost going down on that because we're not charging you for as many credits, it's going to create something called an over award, which means you're not eligible for as much money, and we would have to back some of those loans off or take some of that loan money away and send it back for you to make sure that you're in compliance with the cost of attendance. I know it can be hard to understand, and we have to be very careful because our system kind of packages you in a weird way. If you're full-time in the fall, we expect you to be full-time in the spring, and we give you that money. So we want to be careful when you're doing that. So if you are thinking about being part-time in the next semester or making changes to your account, let us know before you make those changes, because it could have serious implications on the amount of money that you're eligible for. If you did receive a refund, you may need to send some of those funds back, and it creates a very difficult situation for students. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. So please let your department know. Please contact me. I'll put my information at the end so that we can talk about that before you take any actions on the academic side. Okay. As I mentioned before, with the federal loans, there are some public service loan forgiveness options that are out there. If you do work full-time in a public service job, that's defined by the Department of Education. You can go to studentaid.gov and walk through that. If you do work at that and you make payments, 120 payments on time, 10 years, and it is income driven. So how much money you're making, a percentage of that, be it 8, 10% or 15% of your income would go towards your loan payment. So they kind of set that for you, but after 10 years, any balance that's remaining would be forgiven. So this is, again, only with the federal loans, with the Graduate Plus loan and with the federal unsubsidized loan that you get through filing the FAFSA. Private loans would not qualify for this, so as I mentioned. So it's a good deal if you can get into that, if you're interested in that, especially working in the public sector as far as nonprofits and things like that. Okay. I do want to give a shout out to our Sokolov Miller Family Financial and Life Skills Center. They're located in the Grange building right beside the hub, and you can go on to their website. They have great scenarios on there. They have great kind of checklists and things that you can go through, really helping you budget and figure out what your best solutions are for repaying your loans, financing your education, making sure that you're sticking within that budget as a graduate student. It can be very tempting to borrow all of that money It can be very tempting. You can borrow that federal direct loan, and it's pretty easy to get the Graduate Plus loan. And as a graduate student, you can get a lot of money refunded to you each semester to pay for those off-campus housing and for other things. But remember, you have to pay that back. That's the big thing. And, in 10 years, we don't know what, in 2 years or a year, we don't know what the repayment options are going to be. Loan forgiveness isn't a guarantee. That could go away tomorrow. So when you're borrowing, you can't say that it's going to be guaranteed your federal loans are going to be forgiven and there's all these options. We can't trust that. So depending on what legislation goes through and who the next president is and all those things, we could see a lot of that go away. So you don't want to count on loan forgiveness when you're borrowing loans and say, I want to borrow all of it and we'll take care of it, or hopefully somebody will pay that off for me at the end. But be very conscious about borrowing loans and only borrow what you need for that semester. At Penn State, fall and spring are together. Summer is always a standalone. So if you do need loans for summer school, if you are taking credits in the summer, you can talk to me and we can help you get that set up, but it's a separate application. When you apply for these loans, the federal unsubsidized loan is through the FAFSA, so that would take care of fall, spring, and if you have any left over from that 10-250 that you didn't use, if you're taking 5 credits in summer, you may be able to get that loan money. So that's how that kind of works out. The Graduate Plus loan, you would apply for, as I recommended, you can apply fall and separately and spring separately, but I would recommend that you apply together, and then summer is a separate application. You would apply each year for the federal loans, the federal Graduate Plus loan each year for that program. You're not applying upfront for all of it for the 2 years that you're going to be here or how longer that would be. You're applying for 1 year at a time, and then summer is a standalone for each one of those. Private alternative loans, the same way. You can apply for fall and spring together. Summer is a standalone. You would apply for that separately. Then next year, you would reapply for a private alternative loan to take care of your balances there. But definitely this Sokolov Miller Family Center is something to take a look at. They're great to work with. They have webinars on a bunch of different topics, especially for graduate students. It's a great place to review your budget. If you have questions about your finance, they're certainly willing to talk to you. If you have debt, if you have loan debt as an undergraduate and you want to kind of go through how I'm going to do that with the graduates, the debt I'm going to accrue in graduate school, they're willing to do that with you as well. They'll kind of paint your whole financial picture for you before you graduate. So you'll know what you're up against and what kind of payments you're looking at, and they'll really help you make those decisions once you graduate with your degree. Okay? One thing I do want to point out there for students, if you do have loans from an undergraduate that you have with you that you maybe have been paying on, or you would like to have those deferred while you're in graduate school, you can do that. What we recommend is you would go on the website for the registrar. Even though we're talking about loans and getting them put on hold, it's actually the office of the registrar. You would log in at registrar.psu.edu and you would go into verify my enrollment. It's called an enrollment verification. You can print the official form. There's an unofficial, but please use the official form and send that to your loan servicer. So if you go to studentaid.gov, you can go in and look at all your undergraduate loans, and any of your loan servicers you can send that form to, and then they'll help you put your loans on deferment while you're in graduate school. So it's a big help to do that. You could certainly still pay just the interest on those loans if you'd like. That's really up to you, but if you want them on deferment, that's another way to do that so that you don't have to make payments while you're going to school. Okay. Any outside scholarships, if you're bringing any of those outside scholarships into Penn State, if they send you a check and it's made out to Penn State and to you as the student, you would actually go to our bursar's office. They're called external scholarships. You would send that check in, and you would sign it and send it into Penn State. We would apply that to your account at Penn State. The other thing that I absolutely want to recommend to all of you is signing up for e-refund. When you become a student here at Penn State, sign up for the e-refund option. That way, if you are looking for funds to pay for housing and food and other expenses, a computer, those kind of things, we refund your aid, anything above the tuition and fees, about 10 days prior to the semester starting each semester. So within that 10 days, we would go ahead and process any refund, and then we would send that direct deposit to you about in about a week. If you don't sign up for e-refund and you have money coming back to you and you choose not to do that, it takes over a month to process a paper check, and then it takes time to be mailed back to your home address. So you're talking over a month to get that money. So absolutely sign up for the e-refund option on LionPath. Okay. Just some information for you. So we're open in the Office of Student Aid. We're over in the Shields building. We're on the corner over there by the stadium and Bryce Jordan. We're kind of on that corner block. And we're open 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. You can go in and make virtual appointments. You can give us a call. Anything that we can do to help you. Our website, studentaid.psu.edu, is full of topics, and we have tabs for just about everything. Graduate Plus loan, borrowing, scholarships. It's all going to be on that website. And I'll give you my information as well. So if you need anything, honestly, please email me. My email address is jxk326@psu.edu. If you have questions about aid, if you have questions about filing the FAFSA, if you have anything like that, please contact me. I'm willing to help you, happy to help you with any questions that you have, and we want to make sure that everything's ready to go for you. We don't want you worrying about money when you're in the program. We want to make sure that your bills are taken care of, because you're not going to do well in the program if you're struggling with your bill. Okay? We want to make sure that you're focusing on what you need, and that we're here to help you take care of those things. Okay. Any questions? Anything that you have? We're monitoring the chat online as well, and so please.
Yeah, there are currently
no questions. No questions. Any questions from the audience? Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for aid for, it will be like materials for my fieldwork.
Okay.
So there is actually nothing, I have been searching for, scholarship or financial aid for this type of activities. So I was wondering if you have any information about it. And the second question is, I have seen for example, National Geographic has some scholarships. So if I apply to one of those private scholarships, that has to go through Penn State too?
So the question was looking for scholarships for field work.
Yeah.
And the other question on that was applying for an outside scholarship, and that would need to come through Penn State as well, is the question. So the first thing with the field work is depends on how many credits that you're taking for that. So if you're taking at least 5 credits for that, we may have some, again, you may qualify for the loan options. I know you're looking for scholarships and things like that. So we would talk to the department to see if they would have anything. And then second on that would be if you would get an outside scholarship, it depends. That's all I can say is it depends. So she's saying maybe apply for National Geographics or something like that. It depends how they process it. So most of the scholarships are going to be to you and the institution. Okay, so what they would do is send the check to you and say it's to you and Penn State. You would sign it, and you would put it in through the office of the bursar through the external scholarship, and then we would refund that money back to you after it pays your bill. So typically that's how it works. Some of the scholarships, however, would go directly to the student, and then it would be up to you to use that money to pay your bill at Penn State. So it really depends on how the scholarship works, but I would say 99.9% of the time, it's going to be made out to you and the school. Okay.
We do have some questions online coming in. We have a couple regarding international students, and the first one is, can you elaborate more on the financial aid for international students? And the next one is, what kinds of loans and scholarships available for international students and how to apply for them?
Okay, so yeah, all about international students. So really it's going to be, as I mentioned, you can talk to your program about scholarships, and then you would want to go to studentaid.gov and see if you would qualify for filing for the free application for federal student aid. Again, you can be an eligible non-citizen. There are different qualifications for that. So you'd want to check your status there. The other place to go as an international student would be to global.psu.edu. So we'll go ahead back there. It's a great website for international students. So it has information on there about different loan programs, about different scholarships for international students. So the process is much different. If you're an international student and not eligible to file the FAFSA form, you would really need to look at private alternative loans. Those are going to be loans outside the university and outside federal loan options. You can check with your home country. They may have some options for you to apply. If you are looking at private alternative loans in the U.S., there are lenders out there that will lend to you, but you may need a U.S. citizen as a co-signer. So it's much more limited as far as the options for international students. And again, you can still apply for scholarships. You want to check with your country and those things to see if there are any other scholarships available for you.
Is it too late to apply for the current summer semester using the FAFSA 23-24 year?
It is not. So you have until June 30th to apply. That's when the FAFSA deadline that the 23-24 FAFSA expires. So if you are thinking about enrolling in summer classes, you have to make sure that you're in an eligible degree program, that you're not a non-degree student. You want to make sure that you're in a degree-seeking program, and you would need to take at least 5 credits. You could use the FAFSA for 23-24 to be eligible for aid. Mm-hmm.
Are they still allowed to apply for FAFSA if they used it during their undergraduate studies?
So yes, it starts over once you become a graduate student. So we can certainly take a look at your eligibility once we have your FAFSA on file. If you did file a 23-24 FAFSA as an undergraduate, you would just need to log into your FAFSA for 23-24, change your status to a graduate student, add Penn State, and then that'll process for you. So that's a great question, and yes, we can go ahead and process that aid for you.
As an international student looking for a car loan, which financial loan would you recommend they apply for?
So that I'm not allowed to say. So we don't have specific loans that we're allowed to promote in the Office of Student Aid. But if you do go into your search engine and private alternative loan international student, and also the global.psu.edu site may have some other options for you.
And the last one so far, do you have more information about work-study programs for international students?
So for international students, if you're an international student coming in, you really wouldn't be eligible to use Federal Work Study. Federal Work Study is a federal program that we have. Now, depending on your visa status, you may be able to work while you're in the program. That all depends on your visa status. So please check your eligibility at global.psu.edu. They can tell you it kind of walks you through what you would need to have on your visa to be eligible to work while you're at Penn State.
I submitted my FAFSA for the upcoming school year, but it said it was not received. What can they do?
So it may not be received yet. It depends. So if you're admitted to the program, then we should start getting your information here at Penn State, and we're going to start packaging our graduate students here towards the end of June. But if you did file and you're still getting that it hasn't been received, please reach out to me at the JXK326 at psu.edu, and I can certainly take a look and we can see where your status is. The other thing is logging back into your FAFSA form and looking at the student aid report, the filing status, to make sure that Penn State University and your school code is listed on there. We want to make sure that that's all correct so that we can get your information.
Will the graduate loan and unsubsidized loan interest rates be applied immediately, or will the interest rates be applied after graduate studies are completed?
So unfortunately, these loans are not subsidized in that the interest is going to build on the loan while you're in school. There aren't any subsidized loans eligibility as a graduate student. So any of the loans that you're borrowing, the Graduate Plus loan, the unsubsidized loan, and the private loan would build interest while the student's in school.
When is the deadline for accepting or declining awards in LionPath?
So I would say too, if you're going to attend Penn State, you're going to do that, I would accept them before classes start. So we want to make sure that aid processes for you. So I would say at least 2 weeks prior to starting classes.
Can they defer undergrad loans at any time or only at the beginning of the year?
That's a great question. So you can defer anytime. If you decide you want to pay on your loans for a while and then defer for the spring semester or halfway through the semester defer, it's up to you. Whenever you contact your loan servicer or you send them the enrollment verification, that's the time they would put them on deferment for you. So great question.
That's all we currently have online right now, but continue to submit any questions you have over the next couple minutes. And do we have any in the room right now?
Yes, good question. The loan servicer. So the question was, what if you're not above the 5 credits? What happens at that point? So fall and spring, if you're not above the 5 credits, then your loan servicer would be notified and you would be put into loan repayment. So you do have 6-month deferment if you didn't use that as an undergraduate student. So typically undergraduate students, you have 6 months deferment before you start making payments on your loan. If you're coming right out of an undergraduate program and you've never used any of your loan deferment and you're in a graduate program now, if you drop below the 5 credits, that's less than half time, you would be considered less than half time student and you would be put into either repayment if you don't have any of that 6 month left, or you could be in that deferment period until you use your 6 months, and then you would go into repayment. So fall and spring are a little bit different. You have to be above 5 credits or you wouldn't be eligible for the federal loans. Okay, so you wouldn't get the loan money if you're not above the 5 credits. Summer's different. Summer is, you don't have to be enrolled in summer. So if you are taking credits in the summer and you only want to take 3 credits, there just wouldn't be any loan money there from the federal side. You could still borrow a private alternative loan if you'd like, but you wouldn't be required to pay on your loan while you're taking classes in the summer. Okay, so summer is a standalone, and you're not obligated to be at least a half-time student at that point. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions?
We have a couple more online.
Okay.
If somebody already received a loan offer, accepted it, and completed a refund in Lion Path, when will the loan be dispersed?
So is that for summer?
It doesn't say.
So if it is for summer, we're going to process summer aid here on June 18th is when the federal and private loans will disperse for this summer session. So just letting you know, if you applied or you're starting summer classes later, we're beginning on June 18th to disperse those funds for the summer. If it's for fall and spring, then it would be 10 days prior to the semester starting if everything's complete. Master promissory notes, loan counseling, all those things.
For individuals who have a financial hold for the current summer, how long would a graduate loan take to process before the late fee is applied now that we have this insightful information?
So for this summer, if your loan is going to take care of that, you may have a financial hold on your account. It won't go off there until your bill is paid in full. So number one, on June 18th, when we disperse those private alternative loans and federal loans, once the money actually hits your account and makes your account zero and you may have a refund, at that point the financial hold would come off. If you're looking at applying right now for a loan, you'll want to go onto the bursar.psu.edu website. That'll tell you when the interest is going to accrue. Typically, it's the 22nd of each month is when they add interest to the account if it's beyond the pay date.
Can you put your contact information up again?
Yes.
So they know where to contact you?
Okay.
And any other questions in the room?
So, very good. Certainly. Like I said, please contact me, email me, contact me if you want to meet, if you want to do virtual appointments, happy to do that with you, whatever's convenient for you. We want to make sure that you get everything taken care of and you're on the right track. So,
And
thank you.
I was going to say the dean is planning. The dean is on his way down. He was in another meeting. Here he is right now. He's going to do some closing remarks. Thank you, Jamie, though, for presenting this information.
Sure.
And
Thank you.
It's been very helpful.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.